Quick recap in case you missed part 1.
She came home early. Her sister was in her bed. Her husband was beside her, but that wasn't even the worst part. Beneath, the affair was something colder, calculated. A year and a half of financial manipulation, forged documents, an offshore account holding $4.2 million, all engineered to leave. Isla with nothing. Julian Hargrove hadn't just cheated. He had built an exit strategy using both sisters as pieces on his board. Now the assets were frozen. The lawyers had filed. And Reyna had just called with something that changed everything. Julian had forged her signature too. He wasn't just stealing from Isla, he was planning to frame Reyna for the theft and disappear clean. To women, both used, both betrayed. From different angles, now they had compared notes, and Julian Hargrove had no idea what was coming. Part 2 begins now. Arthur. Breck arrived at Dominic's office at 9:47 that night. He set his bag on the conference table, pulled out a single manila envelope, and looked at Isla. "Before we go further," he said, "you need to know something I held back from the original report." Isla's expression didn't change. "Say it." "Julian has a lawyer. Not his regular firm. A separate one. Retained quietly 8 months ago." Arthur paused. "Specializing in international asset protection and criminal defense." Dominic's jaw tightened. Isla just nodded slowly, like she had already suspected something exactly that size. "He wasn't preparing for a divorce," she said. "He was preparing for prosecution." The forged documents Reyna had sent were worse than expected. Her signature appeared on 3 separate asset transfer authorizations, transfers that moved portions of Isla's inherited trust fund into a shell company registered in Delaware under a name neither sister recognized, a name that, when Arthur ran it, traced back to a third person entirely, a woman named Celeste Vero. "Who is she?" Dominic asked. Arthur opened his laptop. "Corporate attorney, offshore specialist. She incorporated 6 holding entities for Julian over the past 2 years." He turned the screen. "She's also listed as a beneficiary on 2 of them." The room went quiet. Isla looked at the screen for a long time. He wasn't running to the Caymans alone. She said Celeste Vero was not a mistress in the way Reyna had been. She was an architect, like Isla, but of a different kind of structure. Financial, legal, invisible. Julian had not recruited Reyna for love or even desire. He had recruited her as cover, a visible, emotional affair that would occupy Isla's attention. While the real operation ran underneath, Reyna had been the distraction. Celeste had been the plan. And Julian had been counting on the fact that two betrayed women would spend their energy destroying each other rather than ever looking at what was moving beneath them both. He had almost been right. Isla called Reyna at 11 o'clock. P.M. "I need you to do something," she said. "And I need you to trust me completely, even though I understand why that feels impossible right now." Reyna was quiet. "Then, what is it?" "I need you to meet with Julian, tomorrow, alone." Silence stretched across the line. "Isla, he doesn't know we've spoken. He doesn't know you sent me the documents. As far as he's concerned, you're frightened, isolated, and looking for a way out of the legal exposure he's set you up for." Another pause. "You want me to be bait?" "I want you to be exactly what he already thinks you are," Isla said. "The one person he believes he still controls." Reyna met Julian at a coffee shop in Lincoln Park the next morning. He arrived in a gray coat, composed, wearing the particular expression of a man who believed every situation was still manageable. He sat across from her and spoke quietly. "You're going to be named in the civil filing," he said. "Your signature is on the documents. That's not something I can protect you from now that Isla's attorneys have everything." Reyna looked at her coffee cup. "So what do I do?" Julian leaned forward slightly. "You tell the truth. That Isla pressured you. That the marriage had been toxic for years. That you were acting under emotional coercion." He paused. "I have people who can support that narrative. You walk away clean." Maybe with something for your trouble. Reyna looked up slowly. How much? She asked, and Julian smiled the smile of a man who had just won. He had no idea she was wearing a wire. Arthur Breck received the audio file at 10:52 a.m. by noon. It had been transferred to the Federal Financial Crimes Unit that had already been quietly briefed on Julian's offshore structuring. Isla's attorney called at 2:17 p.m. It's done, she said. They have everything they need. This is no longer just a civil matter. Isla was standing at her office window, 31 floors above Michigan Avenue. She looked at the city she had built her life in, the skyline she had earned, the view that was still hers. And Celeste Varro? She asked. Cooperative witness. As of an hour ago, Julian was detained at O'Hare International Airport at 4:44 p.m. on a Thursday. He had a first-class ticket to Nassau, 2 passports, a phone with a factory reset in progress. He was 3 minutes from the gate when they stopped him by every account. He was completely calm when they approached. He didn't speak, didn't argue. He just looked at the federal agent and said, very quietly, "She found the folder." Not a question, a statement. Like he had always known, somewhere in the architecture of his plan, that there was one variable he had never been able to fully calculate: Isla. 3 weeks later, Dominic sat across from Isla in the same kitchen, where she had once waited in the dark with her coat still on. The penthouse was hers, fully, legally, without dispute. The trust account had been restored. 2 framed architectural renders leaned against the wall. A new project, a new commission, the largest of her career. Dominic looked at her for a moment. "Are you all right?" he asked. Not professionally, genuinely, Isla considered the question. "I'm better than all right," she said. She poured 2 cups of coffee and set one in front of him. "Exactly where I decided to be." And Reyna. She moved out of the city. Not in disgrace. Not in hiding. She called Isla the morning she left. The conversation lasted for minutes. Neither of them cried. But before she hung up, Reyna said one thing. "I should have known he was lying. You never would have agreed to something quiet. You don't do anything quietly." Isla was silent for a second. Then she almost smiled. "No," she said. "I don't." Julian Hargrove faced federal charges on 3 counts. Wire fraud, financial structuring, document forgery. His attorney released a single statement. He released none. Some men mistake composure for weakness. They see a woman who doesn't raise her voice and believe she isn't paying attention. They see a woman who smiles and believes she's forgiven them. Julian Hargrove saw Isla standing in a doorway at 11:47 p.m. and thought she was the one who had been caught off guard. He never understood that the folder on the nightstand wasn't evidence of his plan. It was evidence of hers. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't say a single word. She just smiled. And that smile, it was the beginning of the end. It's end. On her terms, asterisk, some people enter your life with a blueprint already drawn. They study your trust. They map your blind spots. They move slowly, carefully, so you never feel the ground shifting beneath you. Julian Hargrove didn't destroy Isla with one dramatic moment. He destroyed her quietly, incrementally, over 18 months, the way rot works inside a wall. You don't see it until the structure fails. But here's what he never accounted for. The person he underestimated had been building to. Isla didn't survive this because she was lucky. She survived it because she refused to let love make her careless. She paid attention when something felt wrong. She moved in silence when noise would have warned him. She protected herself before she needed to. And when the moment came, she didn't explode. She executed. That is the lesson. Not every battle is won by the person who strikes first. Some battles are won by the person who prepares longest, stays calmest, and knows exactly when to move. If someone in your life is giving you reasons to look closer, look closer. Silence is not always peace. Patience is not always weakness. And a smile from the right woman at the right moment can be the most powerful thing in any room. Build quietly. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Because the most dangerous person in Julian Hargrove's story was never the one making the noise, it was the one standing still. Comment one word that describes Isla like this video if she earned every single thing she protected. Share it with someone who needs to hear this story today. Subscribe and hit the bell. The next story is already written, and it will hit harder than this one.
You ever been in this situation? If relate, comment below.